Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Michael Maienza. He is a partner at Vogelzang Law in Chicago, Illinois, and Mike focuses his practice on mesothelioma litigation, most recently securing a verdict in excess of $7 million. Welcome, Mike.
Andrew, thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
Very, very well. Question, did I get the last name right?
Right enough, I would say. It's usually Maienza, but when you have three vowels in a row, it's never easy. So it's close enough.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. Mike, so tell us what brought you to becoming a lawyer?
Well, I went to college at the University of Iowa and was in a fraternity there and had a gentleman who did a legal educational at our firm. And I thought it was really entertaining. He was a criminal defense lawyer. So I approached him afterwards and I said, hey, do you need an intern or a clerk or anything? He said, yeah, mine's graduating at the end of the year. Why don't you come work for me? It's $10 an hour, which in Iowa City goes a very long way, especially on the weekend. And that was my first exposure to the law. And I loved the variety. I loved the fact that he was helping individual clients as opposed to larger companies or corporations. And then that was kind of the start that set me on my way to law school here in Chicago at DePaul. And then I'd worked at a couple firms my first 2 years. And then in my third year, I got a job clerking for Nick Vogelzang at the Vogelzang firm. And I truly connected. It resonated right away. And I haven't left. I've been here since 2017.
So question, when you're in college and the $10 an hour, just to add some scale, you don't have to put the time frame, but if you're in a fraternity and you're making $10 an hour, what does a beer cost back in the day? Just so we can add some scale to what that income was.
On a Friday after class, or as they call it, FAC, I would say working 2 hours on a Friday can get you till about bar close. So it'll go a very long way in Iowa City on a Friday.
All right. So, and the lightheartedness of the fraternity life is definitely different from, your existence today as a professional handling a very, serious topic. Can you share a little bit about what brought you into some of the litigation that you're handling on behalf of this horrible disease?
Definitely. And, this terrible disease, mesothelioma, it's a terminal cancer that has no cure. And a lot of people, when they hear the name or the word mesothelioma, they think, oh, I've seen that commercial. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, you might be entitled. Everyone's heard that commercial. And they think, oh, asbestos, that's long gone. No one has it. When in fact, there are still well over 1,000 people every year in America that are getting diagnosed with this horrible disease. Most of them are exposed to asbestos para-occupationally through their job. So typically people in the trades, whether they're pipe fitters, boiler makers, insulators, you name it, they're working with this material throughout the course of their career. And then they get to their retirements and they're greeted with a terminal diagnosis. And it's terribly unfortunate because this disease is 100% preventable. There's only one known cause. It's exposure to asbestos. And the companies that utilized this material within their products and at their job sites, they knew it was dangerous for many decades, going back long before OSHA in 1972. And they chose to continue to use it because it was more expensive to use a substitute that was not toxic, it was not a carcinogen, and they used it anyway. And as a result, now thousands of people are dying years later, even 50, 60 years later, due to the latency of the disease.
And so your firm focuses on that, or there are multiple focuses, or are you saying, no, this is what we do every day, all day?
We specialize in asbestos litigation. We also do other torts as well. We have individuals who have an injury called a meningioma, which is from a Depo-Provera birth control that was administered via a shot. We also have other generic personal injury clients, but primarily I would say our vast focus is in the mesothelioma asbestos world.
And while we were chatting before the video, you had mentioned that there were, certainly, every case is important to you and your firm, and there were a few that stood out. Do you want to share maybe some of either their commonalities or certain aspects, or maybe just the story itself?
Definitely. I think when you're speaking about a commonality, the one thing that we see with every case is it's always someone who has a cancer that was preventable, that they should not have, and it has no cure. And when you have a otherwise perfectly healthy individual who, maybe they never drank, they never smoked, they lived a very healthy lifestyle, and then all of a sudden they get this disease, it's really earth-shattering for the client and their family. So we come in, and it's I feel a little calloused having done this now almost a decade, but when we meet our clients, it's typically soon after the diagnosis, and their world is completely turned upside down, and we try to come in and be the rock for that client to let them know, hey, we're going to do everything we can for you legally. We want you to focus on your medical treatment and spending time with your family, and let us bring the fight to these defendants' doorstep and try and let you enjoy the time that you have with your family. So I would say that's the common thread within all of our cases. There are some times where we have a client who's passed and we meet the family for the first time and we're representing the family. But for the most part, it's when we meet that family that their life is turned upside down, and we're trying to be the calm in the storm for them and really let them have peace in their life. That's the common thread. And then, every case is special. Every client is special. I think if we were to look at the most recent verdict we had last March, we had a gentleman, I'll just call him by his first name. It was Alonzo, and he worked at a steel yard or a steel mill here right around the lake. And he worked around a bunch of asbestos containing products. And one of them was a material that was used to pour molten steel, or you pour molten steel through it. And after it was used each time, it would disperse into a bunch of ash. And that ash was a highly toxic form of asbestos that would go in the air, and it would be in the breathing zone of all of the workers. So they were one of the defendants that was left at trial. And unfortunately, like many of these other companies, they knew about the hazards long before. In fact, they had their own internal correspondence within that company saying, hey, we should get a substitute now, going back to the 1960s, and they used it through 76. So to kind of hold these companies accountable, to give our clients peace, to let them know that they're not unheard. Their voices are not going to leave this world without having left a mark on some of these companies. It's just truly rewarding, and to see the families have the closure that they get, it's been a rewarding career.
Well, Mike, I guess before we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway, what would that be?
Well, I think one of the areas that we're seeing right now is there's a huge increase in the lung cancer filings. Most people who worked in the trades, again, I mentioned pipe fitters, boilermakers, and many others, but if they develop lung cancer, they just assume, well, I smoked a pack a day for 30 years, and that's why I have lung cancer. But the science has shown overwhelmingly that it's not just if you smoke that is going to give you lung cancer. If you smoke and you had asbestos exposure throughout your career, you're 90 times more likely to develop lung cancer than someone who was not in the trades and who did not smoke. So I think some people write off their disease to their own fault and their own smoking, when in reality, the literature is showing that it was not just their own fault for being a smoker from an early age. It had a lot to do with the products that they worked with that they didn't know were dangerous. So don't give up. It's kind of my mantra right there. For any client who thinks they have a bad disease, don't give up. Look into it. See if there's someone that can help you.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest, Michael Maienza, a partner at Vogelzang Law. Mike, can you provide our audience with your contact information?
Absolutely. So if you go to our firm website, you'll have my attorney bio, and our firm website is vogelzanglaw.com. And my contact info, feel free to give me a call, my direct line here in the office at 312-466-1253, or shoot me an email at mmaienza, so my first initial and last name, so mmaienza at vogelzanglaw.com.
Wonderful. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And Mike is a perfect example of that. If you're an attorney or know one who does go above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. Number again, 914-666-6600. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Andy, much appreciated. Thanks for having me on.